We have two excellent resources here tonight to talk about rooftop solar. They'll speak for 20 minutes each, and if you could just leave your questions till the end. And the first person we're going to start with is Sam Kuharian, who is an energy advisor with Energy Sage. He's been at Energy Sage for 3 years and holds degrees in natural resource conservation and economics, and has a background in environmental nonprofit fundraising. And I'll let him tell you what Energy Sage can do for you. So we'll start with you, Sam, and then I'll introduce our next speaker after that.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. And yeah, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Really excited to talk to you all about Energy Sage, what we are, what we do, and how we could help you, if you're looking at going solar. So yeah, let me just share my screen here because I've got some slides set up. Awesome. You're seeing that okay?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, so like Debbie said, my name is Sam Kuharian. I'm an energy advisor here at Energy Sage. So yeah, I just wanted to, give you an overview of what Energy Sage is as an online marketplace and, what the experience looks like if you're interested in checking out your solar options through our platform. I'll be really only talking about solar today in our rooftop marketplace, but just to note that we also do include other things on that, like battery storage with the solar. And we also do community solar, EV chargers, heat pumps as well. So for any home electrification needs, we're a really good resource to go check out. So yeah, a little bit, about Energy Sage, what our mission is. We're a company, but we are a company with a mission, and that's to all around empower people to make smarter energy decisions through simplicity, transparency, and choice. And I think that really comes through as you're going through our experience on our platform. That we're just trying to make it a more level playing field and give consumers more power in the solar buying process. Because there's a lot of information out there. So yeah, we are in currently 41 states right now, and continuing to expand, hopefully. So we've got hundreds of installers on our platform that we've pre-vetted to make sure that they're, quality, legitimate companies, checking reviews, certifications, all that sort of stuff. Energy Sage has been online since 2012, and we were started with funds from like the Department of Energy as well as other sources, to bring that consumer power and transparency to the marketplace. So we still have partnerships with them as well as a lot of local, clean energy organizations like this and utilities. So we want to be, a source where you can go shopping for solar, but also get educated. We've got a lot of different articles on all wide range of home electrification topics, but definitely solar as well too. So you can be a more informed consumer. Let's see. So yeah, rooftop solar, what we're talking about tonight. Won't go into it too much, but I'm sure we, know the benefits of going solar here. I know we'll touch into that a lot more later. But certainly, going green while covering your electricity bills, especially here in Massachusetts, it's just a great thing to do for the environment and, for your wallet too. There's a great return on that investment. So yeah, Energy Sage, this is kind of our customer journey. And like I said, a lot of people come to us for research. So if you have any questions about, how much the solar costs in Massachusetts, what's a fair price, or what are the different components, what are panels versus inverters, how do batteries fit into that equation? We have a lot of information online about that, and that's how a lot of people find our website too. Once you're there, what you can do is you can create an account to get some quotes. So what we'll do is you'll create an account. It takes about 5 minutes. Really just need to know your address, your name, and about how much you're spending for electricity every month. And what we'll do is then send that account to our network of vetted installers that work in your area, and give them the opportunity to upload a quote for you. So you can get up to 7 quotes on Energy Sage from those vetted installers, and then get a chance to review those, without having to give your information to any of those installers. And in that review process, as an energy advisor, that's kind of where I come into the picture, is working with customers to, help them throughout that journey. So you're not going through it alone. And I'll definitely get into that role a little bit as well too later here. But yeah, on Energy Sage, then if you decide that you find, quote, an installer that you like. You can select them directly through the platform, and then move towards installation. So, we really try to help people throughout the entire process of the journey, whether you're just interested in looking at solar or ready to move forward with an installer, and kind of everything in between there. So this is what it would look like on our platform if you make an account after you've received quotes. All of these quotes are custom to your home, so the installer is using satellite imagery and that bill information that you give them. We definitely encourage everyone, if you're making an account, to upload a utility bill as well too. It just gives the installers more information about how to design your system. But you'll be able to scroll through and see, exactly how many panels they've quoted for you, what kind of panels and inverters they're quoting. And it's all very interactive, so you can click on those, read about the specifications, the reviews. You can click on the installers, learn more about them, what their warranties are, what their reviews are, other services that they may offer. So there's a lot of really, really great information on these quotes. They're complete quotes. They come with full price options, cash purchase, and loan options as well too. So upfront, exactly how much you'd be paying if you wanted to move forward with that quote. There's no, bait and switch there.
Sam, do you provide your customers with any sort of insight in terms of their track record of and quality of install or satisfaction, customer satisfaction or something?
Yeah, definitely. So we have installer badge ratings for one. And a lot of that is a reflection of how long an installer has been on our platform. Like I said, every installer goes through a vetting process. So they start at 1 star as approved. And then over time, by meeting certain benchmarks, like having a number of highly rated installations and reviews for those installs, as well as how quick they are to respond to customers and upload quotes, they can increase their rating. But certainly beyond that too, I just always tell customers, refer to the reviews as well, because almost all of those are from people that have gone through Energy Sage. And so it gives you a really good sense of, what people's experience has been. But yeah, I mean, across the board, it's pretty rare to see an installer that doesn't have, a really high, 4 to 5 star rating. Because if there is an issue or a repeated problem with an installer, we have and will remove them from the platform as well too. So we want to make sure that, no matter who you're choosing on the site, you can feel confident that, they're a quality company.
Got it. And another question, I see the payback period for these three examples are 4 to 5 years. Given the energy credit programs, et cetera, is that pretty much what you're seeing these days is payback periods in the 4 to 5 year range?
Yeah, I would say, maybe in Massachusetts a little bit longer, maybe more in the like 5.5 year range on average. But yeah, it certainly, I mean, of course, varies state to state, but Massachusetts having the net metering available is really great for getting that quick payback period. And unfortunately, we do have high electricity costs as well too, which is another, though, great incentive to go solar, because that, of course, gives you a really quick payback period too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and on top of that payback period, like you mentioned, I mean, then we forecast your 20-year savings, and that's personalized to you, what you've entered as your monthly electricity use. We look at historical data for every state too to calculate the increase in rates. So you can get really kind of granular if you want to with these quotes for estimating your ROI and stuff like that. So yeah, this is my role, energy advisor, and I think it's something really, cool and unique kind of that Energy Sage does as well too, where when you make an account, you're immediately assigned a personal energy advisor. There's a team of 12 of us, and you're assigned that advisor to your account personally throughout the entire process. So if you have any questions, you have someone to reach out to that's knowledgeable about the subject, the quotes, the installers, that can help you answer those questions, guide you through the process. Be, an intermediary or help with communication as well with installers. And you're not dealing with a different person every time. I have usually several meetings with people as they're in the process of, considering solar or moving forward. So it's great to, build that repertoire and know, what their history has been so far, what conversations they've had. So you're not repeating the same information over and again. So yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone, if you're making an Energy Sage account, reach out to your advisor. We definitely want to make sure you know who we are, so we'll send you an email and reach out to you as well too there. But book a call with us, usually like 15 minutes. We can do 30 minutes too, but just to touch base and see see what your options look like and get a sense for what your goal, personally for the project is. This is our solar calculator tool as well. It's kind of a cool thing we have on our website. So if you scan this QR code, you can play around with this as well too. But it just gives you a quick example here through this video. I think this is using a public school or library. About what you could expect for a solar return based on your average monthly electricity bill. So if you don't even want to go through the whole process of signing up yet, you can just get a quick scan of what your ROI would look like. So I think it's a really neat tool if you want to try that out. There we go. Cool. So how to get started here. Yeah, if you'd like, just go to energysage.com and that QR code there. If you scan that, it should take you right to the homepage. But like I said, just takes a couple minutes. Ask for some basic information. Then you usually start to see those quotes come in 1 to 2 business days. You should have most of them. Installers are really quick to upload offers here in Mass. And like I said, we got a lot of other marketplaces to check out as well too. But yeah, we just want to bring, like I said, more transparency, more choice to the marketplace. So that as you're going forward with it, that you can feel confident about, making your decision with your installer. And I know there's a lot to weigh right now at this time with like financing as well too. That's something really frequently that comes up on conversations, as well as specific different rooftops or questions about electrical panels, whatever it might be. So I think it's nice to just have an independent third contact to reach out to.
Well, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate that. I think it's going to be comforting to a lot of people to have a place to start and a place where you can, get quotes and not feel, that you feel sort of obligated or, it's very relaxed way to get quotes. So we'll have time for questions. The next we have Andrew Wade is next, and he's the president and CEO of My Generation Energy. It's a solar company located here in southeastern Mass. My Generation Energy is focused on advancing renewable energy solutions for residential, commercial, and nonprofit organizations, and is committed to supporting communities and businesses by providing sustainable energy solutions that reduce environmental impact and promote energy independence. So I think Andrew's going to talk a little bit about some of the issues and things that people have to consider when they're installing a solar panels on their roof. So thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I
Okay.
appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen here. Get this started. All right, great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Andrew Wade with My Generation Energy, and we are a company based here in Southeast Massachusetts. We are approaching about 2,000 installed systems from 6 panels to 6,000 panels. We focus primarily on the residential market, which we'll be talking about today. Yeah, just to kind of go. There we go. The quick agenda for tonight, do my best to keep this to 20 minutes. It's a lot to fit into a short period of time. But we're going to talk about just sort of how the solar works in general, the components, how to design a project. We're going to touch on net metering, the process of going solar. So sort of after you have got, you want to go solar, some of the questions to ask, some of the things to think about. I think that Energy Sage would certainly help out with a lot of those questions as well. But from our experience, some of the things that you should consider. And then we'll talk about that financial payback, just a simple financial analysis on a few sample systems and go over some of the variables in there that could change your payback from that 4.9 to even a 7 or 8 year payback. It's different for every house. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. So this is a question we get a lot: does solar make sense in southeastern Massachusetts? So this is actually a study that was done by the University of Central Florida. This is assuming if you put a 2 kilowatt system anywhere across the United States, how much it would produce on average. This is kilowatt hours per day on average. So you'll see that Eastern Massachusetts is comparable to some of those places that you might think are much better for solar potential. And that's really due to the temperature coefficient. The cooler sunny days here are actually producing more power than those really hot days in Florida. The panels become a little bit less efficient when they're really hot. How do panels work? So this is where I usually apologize to any engineers that are out there. This is all cartoons. So what I'm showing here is if you took a solar panel, laid it on its side and cut it in half. We have the glass on the top, and then we have sort of the inner workings of the solar panel. You have conductors on the top and on the bottom. The silicon here, the green line in the middle is the positive negative junction between the two types of silicon. So as this sits here, these are all these electrons sort of sitting in what we like to call a hole or a trough. So they're sort of in their happy place there. Photon comes down, they knock that out of its hole or its trough, and so it kicks it over to the other side of the silicon. So to get back to where it wants to live, it has to follow through those conductors. And in so doing that, billions of times a second, it creates direct current. So it's just a general cartoon of how a solar panel works, so you kind of get an idea. For the sake of time, I'm just going to add all of this stuff in here. So the general components, this is your house here, the outline of your house. You have solar panels on the roof. We primarily use microinverters. That is microinverters and DC optimizers are the two major players in the residential solar market. We tend to use N-phase microinverters more than anything else. So that's what I've shown here. This is an AC disconnect switch. Every system that's installed needs to have an AC disconnect. It's a requirement from the utility that they can turn your system off should they ever want it to be disconnected from the grid, or if there was ever emergency, a fire or something like that, the system could be turned off. This is your solar production meter. It's important for a couple of things. One is making sure the system's working properly. Two is creating a way to report power to the state so that you can receive renewable energy certificates. We'll show how much those are worth in a few slides when we get into the financial payback. We have your electric service panel that you have in your house now, electric meter. All of the systems that we installed, most systems should have monitoring software. This is an image of a cell phone showing what the system's producing real time. You can show your production, your consumption, and if you did choose to choose a battery, you would be able to see what's stored in the battery and how much you're using from the battery. So I show the battery here. That is a much bigger conversation. I'm not sure we'll have too much time. Maybe in the question and answers, we can get into battery storage. Primarily for the Massachusetts market, it's really a battery backup. There are some utility programs that do help pay back the battery, but most cases it's primarily for a backup source of power. So what is net metering? Sam also touched on net metering in Massachusetts. This is something that really does help the payback. We are lucky to have the current laws that we have. California is fighting some of their own battles with net metering at the moment. So I just wanted to show how it works. So this is your house currently. You're using a bunch of power from National Grid in Cohasset. Coming into the house, lights are on. This is what everybody's house looks like without solar. Put solar panels on your roof. Sun comes out in the morning. Now you're generating some electricity from the solar. Your meter from the utility grid slows down a bit. You're powering your house from two sources. This doesn't happen all that much, but if it was you're producing perfectly what you're using at a given time, this could occur. And more times than not, in the spring, especially here in Massachusetts, we're sending power back to the utility grid. So the meter is spinning forward, it's powering everything in your house. Once your solar goes on the roof, you get a permission to operate from the utility. They swap out your meter for a net meter, which allows it to spin both ways, where you actually will get credit for it. What that does is you can use the electricity whenever you need it. When we're talking about battery storage, the grid is almost working as our battery backup in some ways. You can send as much power back to the utility as you can possibly create. They give you a credit for that on your bill, and then you can use it whenever you need it. Make electricity whenever you can. Again, there's no maximum to what you can send back to the grid on residential systems. Transfer access to other accounts. So if it's currently in the same utility territory, you can transfer those credits through a form called the Schedule Z. There has been a rule that will allow for us to transfer credits across utility load zones, but we're waiting for that to really be enacted at the state level. So getting started, some things to think about, what we do initially when we're contacted, what we look at, assessing solar potential, and doing a full site analysis. Really the three main factors: pitch, orientation, shading, that will give us an overall effectiveness of the site itself. So then we can better estimate what your annual production will be. So I think in the slide, the next slide is the financial slide. We used about a 90% effectiveness, which is not a lot of shading, a southern facing roof. We have installed on roofs that face north. A light, slightly pitched dormer facing north could still be in the 70–80% range. But that's why every house is different and every payback is different. We also assess the electrical demands. We look at your electric bill. We look at your historical usage. We talk about any increases planned for electricity use, any decreases planned for electricity use. If you're going to get an electric car in the near future, then maybe we size the system up a little bit, knowing that that's coming. That's what I did at my house, and now I've been eating through the credits that I built up over the last few years, now that I have an EV. Getting a quote and understanding it, comparing apples to apples, I think it's something that Sam also touched on. Not all panels are the same. Most of the time when I see a large discrepancy in quotes, it's because one company proposed 20 350 watt panels and the other one proposed 20 425 watt panels. So it might even be the same cost per watt, but the cost looks a lot less from one because the system size, the capacity itself is smaller. There are a number of different manufacturers, so doing some research and talking to the installers about why they chose certain panels for your house. Inverters, as I mentioned, we tend to be a microinverter N-phase shop, but again, why there could be reasons why one inverter over the other works better at your home. and then the benefits of those of the inverters. Racking, even down to the roof attachments, what the installer is using for roof attachments, and how they're installed. Asking those questions, I think, is important. Are the incentives outlined clearly? The REC program, as I mentioned, that was on the slide showing the solar meter, the little green certificate that pops out. It's not a huge incentive, but it is hundreds to potentially thousands of dollars per year, depending on your system size and what your system produces. I'm making sure you understand that, and that your installer will get you registered for that program. The tax credits are outlined properly, federal and state. The federal really should apply to most systems, where the state is for a primary residence only. And then I guess, who sent the proposal, who the company that sent the proposal is, and who's installing it. Sometimes people selling solar are not always the companies that are installing them. So just to know who you're working with. Getting referrals from existing customers, reading reviews, and doing your research on making sure you really know exactly who the company is, what their track record is, and who will be coming out the day of install to put panels on your roof. And then, does the return on investment and the payback make sense for you? And that's what I mentioned. Sometimes it could be a longer payback depending on what roof area you want to use. If you didn't want to use the front of the house for some reason, and you wanted to use the side of the house, and the effectiveness was lower on that side of the house, but the payback was still 6.5 or 7 years. It all sort of depends on if it makes sense for you. You're making this investment in your home, so it's really up to you. So I'll get into the financials quickly. How am I doing on time? Got a couple minutes. So quickly, this is a average sort of 24 panel system. This is a 10,000 or 10 kilowatt system. This is not a quote. This is more just to give you an idea of what it could cost, in a pretty much a ballpark of what it should cost. $35,000 system. There's the state tax credit. This is assuming a primary residence. The federal tax credit, which is 30% of the entire system cost. We have that after tax incentive cost after year one. This is also assuming, we're not tax advisors, so this is assuming that you can take advantage of the tax credit. Something that you would definitely want to talk to your tax advisor about. We assumed this system would produce about 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. And so we have the REC value, it's the renewable energy certificate value on an annual basis, about $420. This is assuming 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour for the renewable energy certificate. That is a fluctuating market. It's based on supply and demand. Something I'd be happy to talk to anybody about to get into the real meat of the REC program, but we could talk about that for hours. The estimated annual electrical savings is, we're assuming about 33.5 cents per kilowatt hour. It's been in that ballpark over the last 1.5 years, 2 years. It was a little bit higher last year. So then your overall annual value of about 4,000, giving us a payback of about 5.4 years. So this is something, is sort of what we tend to see. The cost of doing nothing, that's just if you continue to pay your electric bill for every kilowatt hour this system would generate for the next 20 years, you'd be paying about $80,000 in electricity for this system to produce over that same amount of time. And then just a larger system to see sort of economy of scale. Cost per watt decreases on the larger system. Everything else is really scaled up or down with system size. So you keep a similar payback. The payback will go down with a larger system and go up a little bit with a smaller system. And I think that is it.
Terrific. Well, thank you both. I think that was incredibly informative. I think both of you are incredible resources. So I think hopefully we're going to let people know about the video and what you're doing. So I'd like to open this now to questions. Does anybody have any questions? Steve, I think you're muted.
Hi, Andrew. I got a couple questions for you. First, what do you need if you were thinking about also using your combination of a solar array and battery as a backup for a power failure? Some kind of special disconnect, automatic disconnect that let you do that, or what do you need?
Yeah, so it's something that would be installed with the system. There would be an automatic transfer switch disconnect for power outages with a battery, just like there would be with a generator. You could install a system if you already have a generator. You could still install a battery. We would have to, and the same thing with solar, we'd have to isolate those two from the generator when the power was out. But in terms of in terms of what you need, there would be a disconnect. There'd be also a gateway installed. If it's we install Tesla batteries, Enphase batteries, a few other manufacturers. Those are the two primary batteries that we install, and they have a gateway which is sort of the brains of the operation, talking to the solar, talking to the batteries, letting the battery know when it should be deployed, or when the solar should be sending power back to the utility grid.
About how expensive would that be?
Batteries are expensive.
Not the batteries, I mean, just to get that automatic switch over. Get the ability to use it as a backup generator.
So I don't know, I guess if we were to install a battery, it would be included in the cost. I don't know the cost of just having that, or if we could without installing a battery. So a typical battery install is in the $20,000 range.
Okay.
And it depends on your needs. So if we're looking at a Tesla Powerwall, for instance, and you had depending on every house is different. It depends on what you want to run off the battery. It depends on the type of loads that you're trying to run, the startup amperage of those loads. So it's an engineering discussion that we have to have after looking at the house to determine really what the capabilities of battery would be to make sure that they meet your needs when you have a power outage.
Sounds like an expensive option.
It's pricey. It is. Yeah.
Just one more question. The RECs, are they for the total production or just the production that makes it onto the grid temporarily?
Great question. It is for every kilowatt hour the system generates. So it doesn't matter if it goes back to the utility or if you use it in the house as soon as it's produced. If it goes through your revenue grade meter that's measuring the power coming off the roof, you'd get renewable energy certificate value for that.
Okay, so you actually have 2 meters, one for the generation of the roof, and then the regular utility meter.
Right. We used to install an actual glass meter in the basement. The old program in Massachusetts was the SREC program, so it was Solar Renewable Energy Certificate, and that gave us, we needed a revenue grade meter that we would install in the basement, so it looked like a real meter. Now the Envoy, so the device that talks to the panels on the roof, has revenue grade capabilities. So technically, it's not an actual glass meter anymore, but it does measure the production.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a quick question for me. Your assumptions there, Andrew, on the 20-year cost of electricity. What kind of electricity kind of forecast assumptions are you making there in terms of escalation? Just out of interest.
Yeah, so that was using a flat rate. of 33.5 cents. Almost
Flat
what it is
33 and a
today.
half. No
So
escalation.
yeah,
Okay.
we
Got it.
didn't include it there. Yeah, we also didn't include degradation in the panels in
Sure.
that analysis. So most panels are warranted about 90% of their original value at 25 years. So there's some degradation there, but for the simplicity of that analysis, it was a fixed 33.5 cents.
Got it. Yeah, certainly the solar module manufacturers are focusing a lot on degradation these days and trying to reduce that, and with mixed success, I think. The battery integration, is there an opportunity? You mentioned that putting batteries with the current incentive regime in Massachusetts is something that is really designed for backup. Is there Are you seeing the development of a market for these batteries to join in with some of the virtual power plant kind of participation in capacity markets or any other ancillary markets that are additional financial benefits for the owners of the batteries that would help in kind of the payback on that?
Yeah, so there is a program, the Connected Solutions program, currently with the utilities. It's a utility-based program, but National Grid and EverSource participate, and so it is based on a number of factors, but ultimately they're paying to use the energy stored in your battery during events, which are typically summertime events, high demand. And they'll call on your battery. And so if you do participate in those events, you're compensated. If you decide to not participate, you can opt out of those events. It would decrease your overall value of the program. So there is, and I hope there'll be more that will incentivize right, that microgrid or virtual power plant idea, where it's more than just battery backup. Yep.
Yeah, thanks. I asked the question because I think it's helpful for folks who are assessing this decision to understand that that's a potential source of income that they can opt into.
Yep.
Do you have a sense currently, and I ask because I don't, of what those economics have looked like for those events just in recent times?
I personally, off the top of my head, I do not know. So I could get that information for you. We could look at some of the customers that we have that are participating in that program and let you know. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I think that might be useful follow-up for you. I think the committee would probably like to see and understand that, just because you've gotten a track record of installations in our region where, it's kind of real direct relevance to installations that might take place in our town.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, we actually have a few systems in Hingham, which is a different, obviously, utility, and their net metering does not work the same way as EverSource, and so there actually is more benefit in a town like Hingham, where the value of net metering isn't a full value of net metering to having battery backup.
So I see Tanya has had her hand up. Tanya, did you have a question?
I did. So I'm very frustrated because the sun is shining in my face. But other than that, I have a house with dormers and trees. And every time I have a solar provider come and look, and I've had many, they say, well, are you going to cut down the trees or do something else? And of course, we're not going to cut down the trees because it's a very old tree and the dormers are the dormers. So for somebody like me with that type of house, what would you recommend is a way for me to be able to take advantage of solar?
So
Yeah,
maybe
so
Pam, do you want to answer that? Because maybe you want to talk about community solar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that's a great use case for community solar. And just a quick overview of what that is. It's basically a subscription service to sign up for an existing solar farm. So a great option for tree coverage or renter, whatever it might be if you can't install panels. So basically what you would do is through your existing utility, there's no equipment. You would just sign up to basically purchase credits from that existing solar farm. And what they would do is they would then sell you those credits at a discounted rate. So people usually save about 10% in mass on their yearly electricity cost with those solar credits. So yeah, they're great programs. You can actually go on Energy Sage. You can type in your zip code and it'll show the projects in your area, so you can get a sense, learn a little more about them. But they don't have any long-term contracts, so you can leave them whenever you'd like. And they don't have any like yearly fees or anything like that. So they're free to sign up for.
Great. And can I do that in addition to the community choice aggregation?
Yeah. And I mean, almost always, yes. I just had a community solar in Cambridge yesterday, and they have a very similar thing. And you can absolutely combine those. You can combine it with rooftop too. So even if you can only cover part of your needs with rooftop solar, you can also make up the difference with community.
Thank you.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So any other questions? So, well, I thank you both. I think,
Well, hold on, Debbie. There's another one.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, so it's Heinz?
Yeah, Kevin Hine. I have a few questions here. All this is predicated on going on a roof. So, what's the underlying message with regard to a roof? Should it be a roof that's under 5 years old, 8, 10, brand new roof? I'd like to hear some feedback on that. And then I noticed on your slide, Andrew, about the energy meter, and that showed it at the home. Some of the properties that we have in town, the meter may be closer to the road and there may be some distance from the actual meter to the home. Does that require relocation of the meter closer to where the solar apparatus would be installed? And then I guess the third point I'd just like to hear some discussion on is, why even consider putting a battery or the dollars into a fixed battery in the home when you'd be better, the economics would almost just make more sense, I would think, to just put that cost into an electric vehicle, which has your battery, and then just make sure you have one that provides two-way charging. It can also provide energy back to the home as well as draw from it for charging purposes. So if someone could just provide some thoughts on those 3 points, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to jump in there. Well, I can start, Sam. You want to add in anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you have more experience, definitely with the roofing in that aspect for sure, and I can jump in on the EV or the batteries as well too.
Okay, yeah. So on the roofing side of things, we typically say if a roof is older than 12 years, it's probably time to have a roofing professional look at it and give you their opinion on how much time is left. If it's 15 to 20 years, then it's probably leaning more towards time to replace it. If it's over 20 years, we usually recommend replacing it, unless for some reason you think the roof is going to last another 20 years. The last thing I think we would want is that you install a system, and in 5 years you call us up and say we got to remove all these panels, re-roof, and put them back on. It's doable, but it adds a lot of cost to. We're looking at a financial analysis for a payback period. You're getting close to the end of your payback period, and you're adding, another, who knows, $8,000, $10,000 to remove and reinstall a system. Kind of depends on how large the system is and what that would cost. But yeah, so that's kind of our
away
general.
from that, Andrew, before you move away from that, our roof, when we had solar put on, it wasn't strong enough. We had to have the joist sistered. So,
Yep.
and I think Mass Save paid for that. Do you know if there is a program for that kind of thing, or any?
I don't, for structural reinforcement of roof for solar. I don't know. Mass Save has a lot of great programs for electrification and home insulation, but I didn't know of any that were directly related to improvements of the roof for solar.
I mean, they did it years ago for us, but I didn't
Yeah.
know if that was still around. So anyway, Do you remember the other questions?
Yeah, so roof, the location of the meter in most cases will not matter. If it's on a pedestal and it's 100 feet away, 200 feet away from the house, um, all that underground infrastructure is staying in place. It's just the meter itself that's going to be swapped. We'll be tying into the service panel. If the service panel is small and we have a large solar array, we can either update the service panel to a larger one, or we can line tap, which would just be at the house itself before it goes back into the ground, back to the meter. So location of the meter shouldn't be an issue. If you had a generator and the transfer switch was at the pedestal, that's where we can get in some issues because we need to isolate the solar from the generator, and so then we would have to most likely trench out to wherever the disconnect switch was, and then back. That's rarely been the case. I think I've seen that 1 or 2 times in the last 15 years. And then the final question about battery backup. I'm really excited for the potential of vehicle to home charging. I think right now there's only one vehicle that does it. I was talking to some engineers from Enphase, the microinverter company, and I think one of the big hurdles is as soon as a vehicle can plug into a house, it needs to be UL listed, which is an issue that a lot of car manufacturers are having, and I don't think they are putting the resources into that quite yet. But that's what I'm really excited for. I personally don't have a battery in my house yet. Holding out hope for that vehicle to home. I may still get a battery, for essential items when power goes out. But yeah, Sam, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, that was exactly, what I was going to say. And just to add on to that, I mean, I guess the use case for it, like most people I talk to in Mass, probably opt to hold off on a battery for right now. If you are experiencing really frequent power outages because of the delay in getting the bidirectional EVs on the market, I think it's like the F-150 and I think maybe the Nissan Leaf, the only two I'm aware of that do it. Obviously then a battery might be something that you would consider. The tax credits though for them are still 30% until 2032. So you're not necessarily losing out on anything by holding off and considering adding it later. And a lot of those battery solutions are also like stackable, right? So I know like Enphase has a 5 kilowatt hour battery. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can start smaller and increase your battery, potentially in the future, or use the bidirectional, EV charging as well.
And I would add to that there really are 2 separate systems. They do work together and they'll talk to each other, but from an install perspective, they're really 2 separate. You can add on a battery, as Sam said, anytime. So it's not like you're saving a lot by adding, including the battery with the solar in the same project. You can take your time and figure out if it makes sense for you and add it on when the time's right. Because yeah, piling those 2 together, it does become fairly expensive, but yeah.
All right.
I might just add a comment here, just as a cautionary point. The batteries, if you're talking about Tesla or Enphase, you will see probably more reliability with respect to the sizing and the capacity and the availability versus leaning on the bidirectional charging from the vehicles. The bidirectional charging from the vehicles is something that's relatively new. I believe that it's important and it is going to be something that is useful, but I think there's still, just from professional experience, still some kinks to be worked out there on reliability of that system. And then some of the other factors that come in when you install a charging system for a vehicle such as the F-150 Lightning, and you make the move to include the bidirectional hardware. The electrical upgrade to your electrical panel and the wiring required does actually get quite a bit more expensive than the installation of just the traditional charger. I ultimately decided not to install the bidirectional for that reason. The second is when you rely on your auto's battery for the backup in a storm, maybe it goes without saying, but that means you probably can't drive your car because there's not going to be any power in the battery. So, you know, it's you have to understand those things can be mutually exclusive when considering that. Just a couple of comments from experience.
All right. Well, I thank you all. I think this was incredibly informative, and I really appreciate the thought that went into the presentations. So hopefully everyone will tune in a month. The next topic we'll talk about are heat pumps. So we'll see you hopefully in a month, the second Thursday of the month. So thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Well
Thanks.
done. Thank you.